I have to do that. And let's move forward. So hello, I'm Linda. Apart from being a minimalist, I'm an ambassador for Power to Fly, hosting events like this. I'm also a community builder, trying to help women to grow professionally and personally. Therefore, today we have 3 amazing and experienced coaches from Alora Collective, and they are going to go through all the tips that you need to land your remote job. So we have Kelly. I think that you all are familiar with Kelly. She's the founder of Alora Collective, and I'm a big fan personally. I've attended like several events of Kelly, and I love the way she approaches the job searching and the passion she has about remote working. Kelly, would you like to go and introduce yourself?
Sure, happy to. Thank you, Linda. It's been wonderful working with you. I always enjoyed the relationship with Power to Fly. Fun fact, I met Anina on the first event I ever did with Power to Fly. And look at, over a year later, we get to work together on the same team. Alora Collective and the services we do is really the culmination of everything I love doing and how I loved helping people when I was in recruitment, working globally. And I found that one person was not enough. And I also found that changing jobs was not enough. I wanted to help people make a change, whether it's how they work, going from office to remote or digital nomad, changing jobs, moving into a management position, or, rising in what they're doing, or relocating, having moved, from New York to Los Angeles and then Seattle and then living in Amsterdam. I didn't want anyone to feel stuck. So as a team, that's what we do. We help people find actionable next steps to try to figure out what they want to do next, and we support them all the way through. And the good news is if you change your mind, then we find another plan after that. So I'm really excited to be here. You can learn plenty of more about us on the website or on our profiles. I just dropped the links in the chat. You can also subscribe to our newsletter through the website. And I look forward to hearing more of your questions and answering them today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for participating. I'm very honored. I feel very honored that you are here again. I'm your biggest fan, I think. I love the way that you approach this topic and really your strategies and your go-to plan. So next we have Anina. Anina, as you heard, she worked with Kelly. She met with Kelly in the event. She's also a remote product experience designer, and she's a remote design coach as well. And she hosts. She has like her own coaching session. So Anina now when I talked to Anina last time, she was in South Africa, but now she's in Georgia. So very excited about that change. So Anina, would you like to tell me?
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda, for having us back here. Like Kelly mentioned, this is the second remote work session we have at Power to Fly. And the first one was so much fun. So I'm really excited for today. And yeah, Power to Fly is definitely a matchmaker as well, because it's just amazing that me and Kelly met on the opposite side of this conversation last time around. So it's really great being back at Power to Fly. So I'm a remote design coach for Alora, working with Rachel and Kelly. And I coach anything from designers currently in the current role, trying to, navigate remote design life, number one. And then, of course, as well, transitioning designers getting into design. And then as well, portfolio design and prepping for, for those big interviews that happens in design. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I also, like Linda mentioned, I'm actually from South Africa. Bit sad there's no South African here today, but I saw Kenya, so I'm excited. And I'm currently living in Tbilisi, Georgia, and we'll be traveling around here and navigating work life as a nomad post pandemic, I would say. So thank you everyone for being here. I'm excited for all the questions.
That's what we all expect now, to go traveling, since we are all looking for a remote job to go and explore the world. Next we have Rachel. Rachel is international career relocation coach, and she has lived also in several countries, including France, in UK, Hong Kong, and Bangkok. And I would love to hear more about you, Rachel, and introduce yourself to the audience and myself, since you're a new entry, and I would like to know more about you.
Sure. Yes. Thanks, Linda. I'm perhaps the latest addition to Allura Collective, and this is my first event as well. So it's really exciting. I can see there's 27 people, and I can see that number keeps growing as well. So that's really great. So yes, as you mentioned, Nina, so I've lived in different countries. I'm from France originally. I lived in the UK, well, in London, Hong Kong, Bangkok. That was just for work. As a student, I briefly lived in Spain and Beijing as well, but can't really sort of say what sort of the working life is there because I didn't really work. But throughout my experience, I've helped candidates relocate from, I guess, anywhere into Bangkok, into Dubai as well, into Europe. And I really sort of, having relocated myself, I've realized that there is so much to share about, what a relocation entails. It's an area that I think it's really hard to figure things out on your own, actually, when you've never done it. Even if you have done it, relocating to a new place always requires a lot of research, cost of living, or even just interviewing within a different culture, finding out, what sort of the tax rates like, all these little things that essentially are important, for sort of once you actually get to that country. So as a recruiter, I guess similar background to Kay actually. So I myself as a recruiter, I've helped candidates relocate, but I've also helped candidates prepare for interviews across these different countries. And of course, there are always loads of differences in terms of, how you interview, or what type of questions to ask. And I'm very sort of passionate about helping people ask the right and the relevant questions for them in an interview. I think this is somewhat something that perhaps we tend to miss a little bit. I guess as a candidate, we focus so much on preparing well for an interview as opposed to at the same time asking the right questions. So that's a very brief introduction about myself, and I'm happy and looking forward to answering any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to your advice. So to move forward, let's just go. I'll go and read the first question, and I'll also put it to the Q&A box so people can also read it and interact, answer, comment, and share their own opinions as well. So first question we have here from one of our attendees. It says, I just started working remotely. They didn't give me any onboarding instructions yet. What should I expect?
I like this question, and I see Anina smiling, and I know Rachel likes this question too. I'd like them to dive in. They've been actually working remotely longer than I have. I think my first and foremost off-the-cuff response is if somebody doesn't give you a plan and you want one, make your own. Anytime you switch, whether it's changing into a new job at a new role at the same company or a new company, or going from office to remote or hybrid, a 30, 60, 90-day plan is there for a reason, right? And if a company doesn't give it to you, then you should make your own. Onboarding should not be, let me spend a week meeting everyone and then, oh, I have HR paperwork, cool, I'm onboarded. That's not it. So 30, 60, 90-day plans are important. If they haven't given you one, ask for one. But before you ask for one, draft your own. That way, if they say, oh, we don't really have one, you can make a suggestion. It shows initiative, it'll get the ball rolling. And it'll also make you feel a better sense of control of what's going on. At a basic level, your first 30 days is really research and kind of gathering really how is this going to work? How are people communicating now? What am I noticing? What am I observing? Then the second month, days 30 to 60, you're kind of gathering what works, what can be improved. You want to make notes about what can be made more efficient, maybe how communications can be made better, try different things. Is anyone taking notes after the meeting that we just had remotely? Who's writing down the action items, right? And then in the third month, you should really be in a position where you can discuss with your team and have a process and some form of structure in place that you could then grow and build from, together or solo. But if somebody doesn't give it to you and you want it, do it on your own. We work with clients all the time to do that. In fact, one of our clients who just got an international offer, and she's going to be moving to Europe in the fall, the first boss asked her to create her 30, 60, 90. And now her new boss, because she switched teams before she goes to Europe, gave her one. So either way, you always want to have one. It's a great question. The fact that you noticed you didn't have one and you need one says you're on the right track. Anina, Rachel, what do you think?
You definitely realize something's missing. Yeah. So,
now go ahead, Anina.
it's going to be like meet you. So yeah, so I basically want to give a tip. I definitely think be proactive. So if you don't have anything like Kelly kind of did a really great idea about how to get about it, right? You don't have to wait for anyone to give you that, right? But I want to give from a designer perspective, if you're unsure, you know, this is your new role and you haven't been in this role before, it's remote, and maybe new as a designer in a remote role as well, you might not actually be sure how to create one in the first place, right? Why do you fill in those 30, 60, 90 days? So it's really important as a designer to really go talk to either your design manager, definitely have a one-on-one scheduled meeting with them, like just a check-in, you know, getting kicked off. Or if you don't have a design manager, make sure you chat to the head of product or the product owner, because they have an idea of the product, they have a roadmap and a vision. And according to that roadmap and vision, you can now start figuring out what do you need to do next for them in order to create that product or features that they want to get. So start with having those two interaction initially. As you get along, they will let you know you're working with this team or these stakeholders, and you will set up meetings with them. So not everything at once, you have to kind of ease into it as well. So that would be advice from a design perspective. And then something that you can do now that it doesn't exist is creating this buddy system. So usually when a buddy system means the first person or the newest person in the company will then onboard the next new person that come into the company. So that just kind of also makes sure that you understand the company as best as possible, and you can help another new person and explain to them how to get onboarded as well. And that kind of might get you some brownie points along the way. So that's just kind of my 2 tips.
How about you, Rachel?
Yeah, just to add, so, you know, that the topic of this event is really around communication strategies. And I do think that having clear communication is essentially what this question is about. You know, how to, if, you know, essentially you don't know what to do. And the only thing that you can do is just take the initiative to just simply ask, get clarification, reach out to people that are or will be your future colleagues. I think this is perhaps the one, if not one of the many skills that you require when you work remotely. You have to take the initiative on your own, and sometimes it's a bit daunting because you're part of a new company, you don't know how things operate, but there's no other way that you're just going to have to find out by asking yourself.
It's a great point. And onboarding really is about setting expectations. It's what do you think is about to happen, asking other people, you know, how they've done it before. You'll find out very quickly if the folks you're working with are open to change or not, and then you'll adjust accordingly, right? And I think Anina made a great point as well. If you're working in cross-functional teams, or especially in tech and you're a designer, ask your product manager, because typically in that structure, the product manager is managing that team. They're between the designers and the engineers and maybe the data analyst or whoever else. So that's a really good point, Anina. I'm glad you brought that up. And then for non-tech, it could be more on the side, say you're more in the commercial channel or sales. You know, Rachel Moore has non-tech experience in terms of recruiting globally, but I would say maybe HR processes or just your manager just above you. Sometimes even it's someone lateral, or maybe there's an intern that's been on the team for a while. They usually have really great insights because their job is to watch everything. So don't forget about interns or other folks that we would term as like gatekeepers. They know it all. So don't forget to ask them too.
True.
Great points. Yeah, make your own, like I would say, watch people around you. How are they performing? What are they doing? how they're acting. Unfortunately, I have experience joining companies where we're so busy that I was a new entry and nobody had the time to show me around, and they were just find out. So they are these things. So if you really want to see like how things are working, as Kelly and Anina and Rachel said, make your own, like observe the entire environment, how things are functioning, and move forward. So
One more point. Sorry, you made a really good point when you said, you know, just kind of asking around, and that really is it. Teams should be more proactive in onboarding new team members. They should be taking turns on rotation, welcoming people and explaining things, but they don't always do it. Sometimes they love to say, let me know if you have any questions, and then it's on you and you feel like you're asking too much. And some of us are more introverted and we don't want to, you know, hey, can I talk to you on a Zoom call? I have these questions. So another thing you could do is you could take a look at a sample 30, 60, 90. You could make a free session appointment with one of us and we could help you draft it. Just saying, if you need a little help, we could do that in a few minutes. And then what you could do is you could make a form, whether that's via email or in Slack, and send it to people and just turn it into questions and ask them if they can answer it. So what Rachel brought up about communication, I think is really important. Everything doesn't have to be on video. It doesn't even have to be spoken. If you can put your questions together in a written form and make it easy for them to just, you know, here's the question, please fill in the answer, this would help me, or where do I find these items? And you do it in an organized form and just send it to a few people, you'll probably be able to gather the info, and then they can do it in their time, right? It doesn't have to be in the meeting. So that might be another solution as well.
Yeah, that's another great point. So at least like create a manual or a introduction guide, like a welcome guide for the new entries, so they know at least from a previous workers that where to start and who to ask and what information they should look for. That's great point. To move forward, I have another question. And we say, this person is asking, what is the difference working 100% remotely, but within a country, and being a remote worker, digital nomad, and working from wherever you want? I had an interview for a remote job, but they wanted me to relocate to Spain.
Yeah, so firstly, I'm confused that you would say you're a digital nomad and you need to work in Spain. Like, that defeats the purpose of being a nomad. Just a tad. So I think there's conflicting themes in that role. And I'll just take a first answer at this. And I think you need to find out, you know, what do they want? Why do they need someone in Spain? There must be a specific reason. Either they want you to work according to the hours that they work in Spain, right? Or it might be legalities, that they can only employ you if you work in Spain. Or they actually are happy with you being flexible, but, you know, they might want some time zones to overlap. I'm not sure. Or they might want to go into an office, right? So it's very unclear to know why they have that rule. It sounds funny to say that you are a nomad in Spain. So I don't think that's 100% accurate, but there must be a reason. I think you have to find out what the reason is. Kelly?
Yeah, I agree. And I think Rachel has great points on this too, because she's been working in multiple countries and remotely for quite some time. I think at the end of the day, the definition of remote work is going to be up to the individual company and the team. There's no, you know, law, there's no set rule. You know, it's kind of like, you know, UX design. It's not the same in every company. Some people are still saying, oh, I think that blue looks better, and they're not researching what, you know, their customers actually want. So it depends on how that company communicates, how they work, what their expectations are. Some companies work asynchronously, meaning they're not locked into the same 8 or 9 hour time block all day long. Some companies only overlap for those 4 hours. It's really their choice. So I would say figure out how you want your daily life to look like, and then ask questions during the interview process in accordance with that to find out their expectations. You know, how often are you on Zoom and video calls? How many hours of a day do you expect the overlap? You're asking me to move to Spain, but you're saying I would work remotely. Is that because of my visa? If I'm in another time zone, could I also work for you? You know, there's nothing wrong with asking them. That's pretty specific. So I would go back to whoever is working that process, likely a recruiter or HR, and ask them about it. At the same time, I mean, you're in Spain. You don't have to go to an office. Sign me up. Like, tell them I'll do it, you know?
Not go to Spain.
I mean, remotely in Spain, you don't have to sit in Barcelona the whole time. Road trip it. Go to Madrid. Go to Alhambra. Go see it. Go to San Sebastian and eat forever. What do you think, Rachel?
I love these cities, so I would be second in line to do whatever the job is. I'll just do it as well. Even though people say, "Oh, you're in Bangkok and it's really nice and you can be at the beach quite quickly," but still. But I do think, really asking what are the reasons for relocating, but also what does that entail? What is relocation covered? Will they help you relocate? What does that include? And really what it means. And I think when we talk these days, or perhaps since the pandemic even more so, about remote working, there's a strong element of work-life balance, setting your day how you want it to be, doing whatever you want, whenever you want, in a way. So scheduling your work around your life and not the other way around. And I think that's a really important point. If whether you're a remote worker or digital nomad, I do think that both terms actually mean that you work, as I said, you sort of set your time and your work sort of within your own sort of set of hours, really. Of course, there may sort of still be expectations or deadlines that you may have to meet. I think this is all around the communication piece again, ensuring that there's agreement, a common agreement as well. Depending on obviously the types of clients that you work with, depending on the type of arrangement, really, there should always be, though, I think, some sort of common agreement or some sort of contract, really having your work within a specific set of boundaries. It shouldn't just be verbally agreed like this. There has to be some sort of something written down and agreed by both parties. I think this is important. I think when we talk about sometimes digital nomads, some people are willing to sort of accept any work for any sort of type of price, but there still needs to be, and I guess as sort of independent worker, you have to put these boundaries within yourself, actually. And having, it doesn't mean getting a lawyer or anything. You can find agreements online and copy those. But I think having that sort of control over your work life will really be very helpful.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I agree, because what is digital nomad? But I have to be based in Spain. Okay, no problem with that. I can go to Andalusia. I can go to the Canary Islands. I'm all right. But can I work remotely? Can I leave Spain, or should I be there located forever? That's what things I think that you guys covered, and there is asking for more clarification, asking the interviewer, what does that mean? Should I just register in Spain and travel, or should I just live here forever? But I like your perspective, Rachel, as well. We have to do research, see what kind of rights we have, and what does it mean, to relocating here, to relocate there, all the legal stuff as well. With that being said, I'd like to move forward to the next question, which is, what is the difference of a remote contractor role to a remote employee? What kind of rights do I have as a remote worker?
This is a really good question, because this is going to depend on the country that you're working in, or if you're a digital nomad or you're working for a company that's based in a different country. It depends on the country, or in the US, the state that your employee contract or your work contract is set in. So for example, in the US, we have United States laws, and then we have state employment laws. So employment laws are different in New York than they are in California versus Texas, okay? If you are in Europe, you have to think about the European Union, and then you have to think about the country that you're in. So the legal terms of what contractor and employee mean and the benefits they come with are going to depend on where you're where the company that's paying you is actually located in the agreement that you have with them, right? So we can't go through every country, but obviously we have a nice representation around the globe here. I'll do the US really quickly. In the US, if you're a permanent employee, the expectation is at least 40 hours a week. You should be getting full benefits, right? You're a salaried employee, not hourly. You should be getting full benefits, meaning healthcare, meaning 401k, which is what they call that a pension in Europe. It's a retirement account, and other bells and whistles. In the US, if you're an independent contractor, that means that they pay you straight. They don't take out any taxes. And at the end of the year for your taxes, you get a piece of paper to hand to our lovely IRS, and you have to pay your own taxes, right? In the US, if you are a freelancer, which a lot of people do freelance work through staffing agencies, you can work anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week, get paid hourly, and that staffing agency will pay taxes on your behalf. So those are the main three options. If you have a specific question about a specific country and it's one of the ones that we know, that's a great reason to book a free consultation, because you want to make sure that you're understanding what they mean by it, right? Rachel, what do you think? You've worked in different countries as well.
Yeah, just trying to click the mute button on mute. I think it really depends on different countries, but I think typically, a contractor is more related to the length or duration of a contract. So it means that you may even be allowed to be a contractor for different companies. So you could have different clients. Right now, personally, I'm a contractor. I work with different types of clients. I'm not a permanent employee. If you're a permanent employee, you only work for one company. Depending on what the company is, you may have a non-compete clause, which means that you can only work for one company anyway. I think pretty much, what Kelly was talking about, sort of hours, benefits, this anyway will all be within the contract that you have. And I think whether in Europe, for instance, whether you're a contractor or a permanent employee, the agreements that you will sign with the company will have these, and should have actually, these elements stated within that agreement. If you're a contractor, you could be paid on a daily fee, or depending on, of course, what your sort of actual job is. So you could be as an independent consultant. There's sort of different, I would say, segments within that. But as I said, so generally, the terms for which you will be working in are stated in an agreement. Not sure if you have anything to add on this, Anina.
It's pretty similar to a combination of your both. I mean, from a South African perspective, it's project work, meaning you get paid a X amount of money, usually then on an independent contract, and you don't have a lot of rights. You just have to finish a project. You don't have leave days or pension fund or any of those things, and you have to do your own taxes. And full employment is very similar to what is in the States. So yeah, I think you both got it covered there.
I from you guys, I'm learning, like, that's why I love these sessions, because in Europe things are so different. Like in Germany, for example, where I was living previously, the employer would work, and the employee would work, and the employer would pay every taxes for that, and the employee didn't do anything for the taxes. But as soon as I went working remotely, I got so confused, because when they gave me the contract and I was like asked to do my own taxes, nobody teach this in school. So I was like, oh, me? Myself? Like, you're not gonna help me with this process? And so I had to learn how to, what you said, Kelly, to gather at the end of the year, like all the income, and submit the paperwork, and all the things that the income and external income, and being contractor if you work for several companies as well. So it is complicated, but what I've learned, it's like, it's not difficult at the end if you know what to do. Like I didn't know what to do because the employer was taking care of everything when I was working, but working remotely, I learned like how these things work. And at the end of the day, it was even better because I understand more of the working process, how everything functioned.
The best thing to do is always just take notes, like you said, save your receipts. You can learn as you go. If you are up for permanent offers and a company's relocating you, it's not unheard of that they would pay a firm to do your taxes in your home and host country. I had that with my offer at booking.com. I've helped other clients negotiate that, whether it's part of your sign-on bonus, and this is for permanent employees. Part of that relocation contract could be that they will pay a firm to do your taxes in both countries for the first year that you work there. Or if you're in a leadership position, it could be longer. It's really a tax thing, and it's confusing. You know, it's confusing here in the U.S. There are certain states in the U.S. like Florida, Texas, Washington, where you don't pay state income tax. You only pay you don't pay state tax. You only pay federal in terms of your income. So it's tricky everywhere.
Tax is very like personalized depending on what country you are at and then which country you're going to. So also remember, if you're working as a nomad, you also obliged to paying taxes in the other country that you are if there's no specific treaty. So be aware of these things. You have to investigate and do research about which countries you're going to and what's the tax regulations.
And there are groups to help with it. If you're in the US and you're freelancing, freelancers.org is a great organization. There are other websites that are more specific, or especially things like Wi-Fi Tribe or Selena, who has co-living places all around the world for digital nomads. Those are great groups to join, to ask them, because those are people that have been through it and done it. So those are great resources to ask as well.
Awesome. Yes.
The key is make sure you get paid. That's
that's a tricky part. Before we go to the questions that the audience has submitted, I'm just gonna read the question from Joel that he asked on the chat box in the Q&A session. By the way, if anyone has any other questions, please feel free on the Q&A session. Just drop your questions there. So he says, "Hey all, I'm a front-end developer and I have been freelancing and working with clients on my own, but I want to jump to working as an employee right now. I'm looking for a remote position. What's your advice on how I can land a remote position other than applying, and I'm willing to relocate?"
I mean, I love this question. I know Anina and Rachel know exactly where my brain is right now. Anybody want to take a guess where I'm going to go with this? Of course you can get a job without applying. In fact, the most effective way you will ever get a job is through job search networking, meaning going after introductions and referrals through your network. The healthiest and most successful job search plan is always going to be a combination of both. You're going to save job searches based on keywords so you can find multiple titles. So for example, if you're front end, you're looking for front end engineer, you're looking for front end developer, you might be looking for React developer, you might be looking for Angular, JavaScript. So you want to keep it broad, and then you save those job searches, whether it's on LinkedIn or Indeed, and have that platform become your sourcer. Let it send you open positions. Then you block time where you make a list of target companies that have distributed teams that work remotely really well, that have been doing it a long time, that know how to communicate. Find any top 10 remote company list. InVision, AHA, Dropbox is now doing it, Twitter's doing it, Slack is doing it, but find ones that have been doing it for a while, and then use LinkedIn, go to the company page of that company, click where it says see all employees, and under each employee, it's going to show you in dark gray who you know that knows someone that works there. Those are your introductions. Craft your message, ask for the introduction so you don't get lost in the inbox. Go to our blog on aloracollective.com. You'll find an event called 6 Job Search Message Templates that we did with Power to Fly, of course. There's a free download in the blog post in addition to the event that gives you templates so you can kind of make them your own and fill in the blank and kind of get your job search networking going in this way. But the outbound messages are very important, so try to balance that. Rachel? You're my other recruiter counterpart, man. Where's your networking digs? Let's go.
I was going to say, start with your own network. If you've been freelancing, you work with clients now, leverage the relationships you have with them already. and perhaps they know someone who knows someone. You said you wanted to be, if you want to be an employee, but you can also find a digital nomads country that can welcome you, and you can still freelance and work for these clients. Actually, I'm pretty sure that on our Alora Collective website, we have a list, or if not on the website, you can ask or just email us. And we have saved quite a few templates, not templates, actually just articles that we've seen and keep track of countries where they welcome digital nomads. I think, Portugal is one of them. I'm pretty sure obviously Georgia is one of them. There's quite a few, and I think the list keeps changing actually. But I do think that really start with your own network. And as Kelly said, see who you know that may know someone that works in a company that you may find interesting.
But they don't have to be your best friends either. LinkedIn was made for networking and asking. So if anyone doesn't want to be asked, they should leave the platform. That's what it's there for. It's the best place to network and look for people. It's not the only place to look for jobs. So open up your search to other places, whether it's Remotive, remote.co, Girls in Tech has a good job board, Women Who Code has a good job board. Open up your job board postings. And then when you apply, you want to either go to the career site of that company, or best case scenario, either get a referral from an internal employee or get an introduction from someone else who can help you not get lost in the inbox. As a front-end developer, you must have a good sense of design. So even if you don't have your own website, you can maybe put a PDF together or some slides about your work with some screenshots of things that you've built. Anina is our resident remote UX design coach. She works with people all the time, fine-tuning their portfolios. Everyone can have a portfolio. You don't have to have a website. You can do a static PDF that you send with your resume to show examples of your work, especially as a front-end developer, right? You want to show them your distinct sense of style in that way.
Yeah, being a front-end developer, it would probably be for you easy to have your own website, so you don't even have to worry about a PDF. You're already halfway there, right? And yeah, of course, you're going to have to showcase something, especially with doing remote work. They'll always ask you for a link to your portfolio. And then, cool, you have your own website. That's awesome, Joel. Brilliant. So that's a great start already. I mean, if you book a session with me, we can definitely have a look at your website and how it looks like, and who's your audience, who's going to look at your portfolio to get that just foot in the door of getting your first role. And I know you said earlier you're from Kenya, so it'd be great to chat to you, because I think South Africa and Kenya has very similar rules in terms of which countries you can go and live. So yeah, Georgia's on that list, in Portugal as well. So yeah, it would be really exciting to help you out getting your role and looking at different countries to actually do your remote work from.
Awesome, great. And also for portfolios, because that it goes to the next question. I would say Joel says he has also a website, but portfolio-wise, I would suggest that everybody needs a portfolio. I know that more of the UX design people are using portfolios to showcase their work, but personally, I've noticed that we all need a portfolio nowadays to show what we have done in our career. From my experience, that I'm coming from a non-tech background and was doing community and marketing and all these non-tech positions. When I put together a portfolio of my work, interesting in interviewing me, because they could see what I've produced all these years. So because the next question that we have is, do I need a portfolio to showcase my work? Personally, I think yes, but what do you guys think?
I think you kind of put a portfolio, especially designers, don't expect to even get past the first application or round, because a portfolio from a designer perspective is everything. It doesn't have to be a website. It can be a really nice, there's tools that you have already, Figma, right? That's a design tool. You can create a prototype of a website on your tool without even building a website, buying a domain, right? That's really easy and cheap. You can even be creative using Notion, right? It's a task management tool, but I've seen so many designers, especially UX designers, because not all UX designers are visual designers, and they use tools like Notion to create a portfolio, or you create a PDF and make it interactive. But definitely you need to showcase who you are, right? That's your first, I said this again, but it really is your first impression of who is Linda, right? Who's Linda? I need to see a face. I need to have that personality because recruiters and Rachel and Kelly, when they've been there, you receive tons and tons of applications, right? You need to stand out. And if you don't even have a portfolio, people will not even go further than that, right? And you lost that opportunity to continue. So I feel strongly about a portfolio. I actually created a checklist of a portfolio, and I'll pop it into the general chat for everyone to download from the Laura website.
I would like to go through and read a question that we have from Madison. And you guys, if you have questions, please feel free, interact. You can also go off mute. You can also go on camera if you want to ask directly. Let me know if you want to. So Madison, she says, what are some of the things? What are some things or ways to boost your LinkedIn profile for remote roles? What are ways to make it easier for recruiters to find your profile for remote roles?
I'm happy to give my 2 cents on that one.
Give us 5 cents. Come on, Rachel.
Oh, okay. I'll be a bit more generous. I think the first part is really sort of listing, the different roles that you've had, not just the job titles, company names, but giving a bit more information about what you've done. I also think that first sort of section, that summary section on your LinkedIn profile, should actually say what your specialization are, or is, or are, and what you're looking for. Why are you looking for a remote role? And you can also add, what skills you have that you think are relevant in any type of remote opportunity. We talked earlier about being proactive, initiative, clear communication. Highlighting those, I think, are definitely relevant. You can also set your profile as being open to work for remote opportunities. And that means when recruiters, so most recruiters may have a recruiter license on LinkedIn. That means that whenever they do their search, they can search for these specific criteria. So if I'm a recruiter and I want to look for people who are either immediately available or open to work or open to remote work, these will be options that I'll see, I guess, coming up first. And as a recruiter, you want to find people who have the best chances of answering your message first, so that it's sort of easy and quick wins for you. So identifying things like this that will make recruiters contact you is definitely important. I'm pretty sure I am missing a few things, but can't think of anything right now. So I'll probably pass it on to Kelly to see if she has any more things to add on this.
No, I agree with everything you gave. That piece in LinkedIn, in your privacy and settings, where you can tell recruiters you're open to work, but nobody else knows it, or open to opportunities, I think it is. It's a really great setting, because when we're searching, we can find you, but everyone on your team doesn't see it. If you want everyone to see it, then go for it. I think the only other thing I would add would be, I would take a look at job descriptions and company descriptions that have been working remotely or distributed or virtual, whatever terms they want to use, for quite some time. And I would look at the keywords they use in their job descriptions or in their company culture description of how they talk about how they work together. And I would include those phrases in your LinkedIn profile somehow, whether it's in the about section, whether it's in the summary section. If you worked remotely before, then use, one of your target company's phrase for how they work together in the description of one of your former employees, because then when people search for it, they're going to find you. So a lot of the LinkedIn profile is a matching game. If you think of your resume, LinkedIn profile, and interview, you could think of it, my best analogy would be like movies. So your resume is kind of like the first trailer of a film, right? It's 30 seconds. Somebody dies, maybe something blows up, we're not sure. Your LinkedIn profile is the longer trailer. Somebody definitely dies, and now we know which building blows up, right? So it's a little bit extra. It's a little bit more than the bullet points. It's a little bit more of a story. Having an about and a summary is great. If you don't like writing it, draft it, have someone else read it and get some help writing that out. That's something we help people with all the time. Then when you get to the interview phase, that's the feature film where you can tell your story so people can visualize you working with them. But in terms of your LinkedIn profile, another thing I would suggest, depending on what career track you're in, is do a people search for people in similar roles that you're in or the next role that you want. Look at how they describe what they do, especially if they work at a remote company. Your profile should look like that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You don't have to make it completely unique, but it has to be similar to other folks and other profiles. So look for those keywords. If the company you're targeting is calling themselves distributed, then distributed teams as a phrase should be in your profile somewhere. If you're a front-end developer, then all the languages and frameworks that you use should be in your profile beyond the skills and endorsements, right? If you're a JavaScript developer and you're on both sides, then I should see React, I should see Node, I should see Angular. They should all be in there, right? Make yourself searchable.
Very great advice, Kelly, because I've seen people asking me all the time, but I have my profile open. I have put also the frame open to work, and I still can't get anybody to reach out to me. So I think that using the keywords, the job description, and to shape the structure, basically, our LinkedIn profile to the jobs we want to do, or the kind of recruiters we want to attract. So make sure that we are in the right path there.
Yeah. The other thing, actually, I'm sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of LinkedIn profile plus job search networking. You know, recruiters like Rachel and I, our job for a very long time was to be very popular. Our job is to be connected to a lot of people so that when we had an open role or we're recruiting, we can find a lot of people and find them quickly. If you have target companies, try to connect with the recruiter at that company. As soon as they're a connection of yours on LinkedIn, that means every one of their connections become a second of yours and you have full visibility to all of those people, right? If you can't connect with them, if you feel weird about it, follow them. You don't have to connect with everyone on LinkedIn, but you can follow people. So as you follow people that work at the companies you're targeting or work in the role that you want, you're training LinkedIn's algorithm to fill your news feed with stuff that's relevant to you. Then you'll start seeing things that are more relevant. You can like it and you can comment on it. That's going to make you more visible in the news feeds of people that are looking for you. When recruiters search, they don't search who's open to opportunities. When Rachel and I were doing specific searches, we're searching for languages, frameworks, specific skills, someone with pharmaceutical experience, whatever we're looking for. So those keywords, that's it. Like that's what they're going to be searching for, are those keywords.
Right. Yeah. I'm just gonna remind to all people that who have attended today that we are going to be live tomorrow as well, same time here in this platform. So don't worry if you have like more questions, but we don't have more time. We are again tomorrow here for another hour because this is so valuable. Like I'm thrilled to be here with all these ladies that they have. Like I honestly, every time I finish the session with you, I'm basically keep doing whatever you suggested. I'm checking my LinkedIn. I'm like, do I have the keywords? Am I doing everything right? Well, if you guys have any other extra question, I have like one last question for you to answer, and then we can wrap it up and continue tomorrow with the next questions. So last question for today. I want to work remotely, but I'm based in Europe, and the majority of the company I've interviewed with want me to overlap with the US at least 4 hours a day. What would you suggest I should do so I don't burn out?
I guess I think that depends on the time zone you're overlapping with. I mean, I'll take this since I'm the one based in the US. It's from Europe. It's likely easier to overlap with companies in New York because you're only 6 hours apart if you're Central Europe time. If you're UK and I think Portugal, you're 5 hours off, right? That's the 1 hour. So that's the closest. If you're working with a company in California, you're going to have like a 9 or an 8 hour break. So I would say use World Time Buddy or the free app called Miranda, and just look at which timing works best for you. If working remotely is something you want to do, then these are the compromises that we make. I think that it's worth it. I personally would rather work on and off throughout the day versus go back to the whole 9 hours straight for 5 days a week. But it's really about what works for you. Anina and Rachel have both been working across time zones for some time as well. I'd love to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I think actually it would be a benefit because I prefer working when it was, well, I was in South Africa, my time zone was pretty aligned with Europe time zone as well. I worked with America companies and clients most. And I think it's quite nice because if you have only a 4-hour time overlap, you don't have to start at 8 a.m. in the morning in your time, right? It doesn't mean now you have to work 8 a.m. your time all the way through until your time overlaps. It means that you can get your work done whenever you are the best productive before the overlap happens. And this is usually going to be in the evening for you, right? Early evening or late evening. So that's when, like Kelly said, you can take some breaks during the day, go for a jog, have some lunch, have some coffee. But more importantly, you'll be done by the time you have the overlap. And the overlap is usually there for meetings that you have to have or check-ins or communication, right? That's more synchronous. And by the time you get to that 4 hours, you're already done probably most of your work. So you'll feel actually great going into the 4 hour. Everyone else is starting the day and you're kind of wrapping it all up. So I would say it's kind of more a benefit, but make sure that you don't work the entire day until the overlap, because then, yes, you will burn out. You have to be a bit more disciplined and organized, controlling your schedule and making sure you get the stuff done what you need to get done before the 4-hour lap happens. I know, Rachel, you probably also have some good pointers there.
Yes, mostly from my personal current experience, actually. So I'm based in Asia, but I work with clients in Europe. So they sort of start their day when it's sort of around 2 or 3 p.m. my time, sometimes a bit later. I'm sort of always get mixed up with time difference for some reason. So that's why I use World Time Buddy all the time. Yeah, I think the best advice here is really being quite strict with your own schedule, being strict with yourself. When you have to cover that specific time zone, it doesn't mean that you actually have to work. You can work before or after that, but it can mean that you sort of keep an eye on your emails in case something urgent comes up, and then you know that you can be reactive to it. I would say, and something that has worked quite well for me is if I work with 2 different clients, they both know that I have other things going on as well. Managing expectations, saying, okay, I'm free on that day, I'm not free on that day. And if it's okay, sort of reassessing every week on an ongoing basis, having, your, say, weekly catch-ups with your clients. I'm saying, yes, let's have a catch-up every Monday or every Tuesday, whatever it is, and reassessing on a week-by-week basis. I think it's fair to say that with, this pandemic, things have been changing every day or even on that weekly basis. So it's fine to sort of suggest that to people. I think, and perhaps my suggestion from my personal situation, you can even find another client and work part-time for one and part-time for the other. And that would be a good balance. That could end up being somewhat of a full-time work arrangements, but then you're still managing your own time as well.
Yeah, and the key to burnout, really, I mean, you'll see this in my interview prep blog on the site. It really is, you have to know yourself as much as you have to know your audience, you have to know your team. So if you're thinking about this permanent role and they want you to overlap by 4 hours, then think about the rest of your day and how that's structured. I personally am not really a morning person. I flew back from California last night. I'm in Florida right now on the East Coast, and I'm like deliriously exhausted. That's why I just sucked down like 4 shots of espresso. I'm a night person. So if I was overlapping and if I had to overlap, let's say mid-morning to afternoon, I would probably block my calendar after that so I could take some rest, go outside, do something to kind of refresh myself, because later in the evening, my brain actually wakes up a lot, and I usually get a lot of good kind of deep work and focused work done. So know yourself, right? And then work around those 4 hours. If it's those 4 hours that require you to be available for Zoom meetings or on Slack and near Wi-Fi, then own your calendar and block time during the rest of the day so that you're not burnt out and you don't get stuck in that schedule. It's really important to be proactive, especially when you're working remote or something else. You don't want to be reactive to what everyone else is doing. You have to kind of own your own space and your own calendar. I see the thing in the chat. I know Linda's going to remind you that tomorrow we're on tomorrow again at the same time. We're so excited to see you. The links in the chat in the general section are there. Check out our website, book a free 30-minute session. You can have one session with any of the three of us to ask any other questions or get personalized answers. Connect with us and follow on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn group where our clients can share job opportunities and help each other with introductions and referrals. And you can also follow us all on Instagram, whether it's at the Allura Collective channel, or I put our personal handles in there as well. We're so excited to see you all here. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. We're going to send a special thank you discount gift out after the event, by the way. We love all of your questions. We love that you are really paying attention to how you work and changing how you work to better suit yourself. And I think the topic of this chat was something we were really excited to do, is the next level of remote work, which is communication. So tomorrow, I think we'll probably dive into written communications, how to use your experience in 2020 working from home or whatever that is to sell yourself into your next remote role, and how to feel more comfortable with the distance being remote. And really, I think communication is the name of the game, just like Rachel and Anina said. Thank you so much to Linda, Anina, and Rachel.
You.
Awesome.
I can't get enough of you guys. So I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow again. Thank you so much for being here today and for tomorrow.
See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.
Tomorrow.
Bye, Georgia. Bye, Thailand.